Hello everybody and welcome to Apple Autos. My name is Austin and today I'm going to give you a full tour of the 2021 Shelby GT500, which is arguably going to go down as one of the greatest sports cars ever built. Now I have the hood popped here so we can start at probably the most important part of this car, which is this insane 5.2 liter supercharged V8 that revs to 7,500 RPM, producing 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque. We just need to take a second before we even get into this video to soak up the sound that this engine produces. It's heavenly. It sounds so good. Don't forget to give us a like and hit subscribe. That way you can have more opportunity of seeing some of these amazing vehicles in your feed popping up here. And this vehicle is currently available for sale for $88,999. You can purchase this 2021 Ford Mustang GT500. Now, let's get into the video. We're gonna start this video up front where I'm gonna talk about the most annoying part of Shelby GT500 ownership. Now, oddly enough, that's actually what we are looking at right here. Under the hood is the most annoying part of the Shelby GT500. And why is it so annoying, you may ask? Well, accessing it. I'm gonna go ahead and close the hood here so you guys can take note of just how much effort it takes to get this thing open. So step one of opening the hood of the GT500 is pretty dang standard. You just go ahead and pull the latch that's right next to your foot. Now when you pull that latch and you walk up front is when you are greeted with a surprise on the front of the GT500. There are these two hood pins that are standard on every single GT500. Now one of the lead engineers of the GT500 actually said that they will never sell one of these without hood pins, and I'm gonna get to that in just a moment. So what you have to do is you gotta have to wiggle it around. You gotta start with the wiggling, okay? Then you kind of take your finger and push, get the bottom of your hand and push, you pop one side up, okay? You do the same thing over here. You push in, pull up, get it to kind of unlatch there. Then you come to the center, and once you get that, you can kind of pull this latch off to the side, and up she goes, the oddly enough very heavy hood of the GT500. It's not a light hood, surprisingly. But then you're greeted with these little guys, these little interesting metal things that just kind of wiggle around, and you think, why in the world would they sell me a $100,000 Mustang with those? And there's purpose behind them, believe it or not. Now the Mustang GT500 here can go 180 miles an hour and is one of the fastest track vehicles that Ford has ever produced. Now because of the extreme speed, cornering G-forces, and everything else that the Mustang can do on a track, they have said that those hood pins are required because if it doesn't have them, there's lift on the hood, there's shake in the hood, so they are necessary in a vehicle that can accelerate and perform and handle the way that the GT500 can. And while we are under here, we might as well give a quick thanks to Brian Kelplock. He hand built this 5.2 liter V8 that is the heart of the GT500. Now, every single one of these motors in the GT500 are hand built, so that is pretty dang cool. Now, if you just look under here, it's just glory. It's beautiful. The underside of this GT500, carbon fiber composite. You have written as soon as you open the hood, as well as your little hood pin latches. And then you are just greeted with this massive 5.2 liter with this huge supercharger on the top of it. Just a work of art this is, but that's enough talk about the engine. Let's talk about the front end. All right, let's go ahead and shut this thing. Down she goes, latched on all three just by setting it down, which is pretty cool. On the front end of the GT500, it stands out over the base. There's no doubt about it. It has this very widened front end on both sides, these super aggressive splitter across the entire front, which improves downforce, airflow. This thing is an absolute track weapon. Ford did everything in their power to take advantage of all the air that hits the front of this thing as you're doing 180 by adding all of these flaps, different swoops, different things like that, that they could move the air around to keep this thing as planted and stable as possible as you're going around a track as fast as you can. Now, I'm a huge fan of the beefed up front end of this thing. It looks very buff and aggressive, and it's very easy to tell the difference between even the GT350 and the GT500 with this widened front end here. It makes it very visible that this is something special just from the front. As if that specialness wasn't given away by the massive Shelby that is imprinted on the front splitter, I am actually quite happy, even though this has the carbon fiber track package on it, I'm happy that they used a plastic piece down here. Yes, carbon looks better, but this car is low, and it can be challenging not to scrape that front end up, and it's stressful when you do crack carbon, and it's not cheap by any means at all. So it is slick that they used a piece of plastic down here, because as I can feel it, there is a few little scuffs because this thing scrapes so easily. So it is nice that they did use plastic. That is now a replaceable part that is somewhat affordable to replace. Now, another thing that's very special about the front end of this thing is the hood. Look at how aggressive every single one of these is. A functional heat extractor, so it has function and it looks fantastic. Yes, the hood pins are annoying. Holy cow, do they make this thing look mean. And oh, if that front end wasn't aggressive enough, take a look at the side. This is the $18,500 carbon fiber track package, which gives you carbon fiber wheels. Carbon fiber wheels on a Ford Mustang. Those things are ridiculous. And if you're curious about, hey, I just want a set of those for my Mustang, what does that run me? Now, for the front wheels, I believe it was right around $7,500 per wheel. And in the back, surprisingly, even though that they're wider, around $5,700 for one replacement wheel. Don't screw up the wheels on your carbon fiber Mustang. I do not recommend it. That's not cheap, but they are extremely light. And behind those wheels is one of the largest production brakes ever fitted to a vehicle. Up front, we have some 10-piston Brembos. And then back, if we take a peek here, we can count them. 4 pistons in back. So 4-piston Brembo in back and 10-piston up front. Now, just to put that into reference, one of the fastest stopping cars of all time, surprisingly, is the Chevrolet Corvette C7 Stingray and Grand Sport, which has 6 pistons up front, just to put into justification at how big those brakes are. And one of the new Mustangs on top of this one, the new Mustang Dark Horse, actually set a Motor Trend record for the first time ever. They were not expecting it to break a Motor Trend record. This is comparing it to the McLaren Senna. This is comparing it to the McLaren P1. This is comparing it to Bugattis. This is everything. Everything Motor Trend's ever tested. The Mustang Dark Horse is #1 for the fastest stop from a 60-foot. It's pretty impressive. With 305s up front and 315s in back, wrapped around some Cup 2s. These are some wide, sticky tires on all 4 corners, which you get with the track package on the GT500. This thing is no joke around a track. One of the fastest track vehicles ever produced. And in my opinion, this car is far, far, far cooler than like the ZL1 1LE or the Hellcat Red Eye Superstock. It's just so unbelievably track oriented and so straight to the point, and they put everything into this. This car is just so dang cool. I love it. Not to mention this absolutely massive, adjustable from the factory carbon fiber rear wing. Just look at it in all of its glory. The thing looks mean. It's also very visibly aggressive from the back. The quad exhaust with these insanely large tips that I can easily fit my fist in without even touching the corners of them. They're huge. The Cobra logo looks mean as can be in the massive wing. Everything about this car was stepped up a notch between the GT350, the GT, and very easily definable from the 4-cylinder EcoBoost Mustangs. This thing is no joke. It's no slouch. It's probably one of the coolest vehicles Ford is ever going to produce. It's going to be going down in history as one of the most extreme Mustangs ever. I am very excited to get behind the wheel and drive it and see what it is like to experience this Mustang. Let's check out the interior first. Hopping inside of the GT500 feels very similar to the other Mustangs. Really not a whole lot different as we just open the door there. And when we get in, it feels quite similar as well. What doesn't feel similar is these bucket seats, these Recaros, Alcantara on the bottom, white and black leather that are holding me up, holding me everywhere, really. I'm snug, I'm not moving. And then what I rest my hands on is an Alcantara wrapped flat bottom steering wheel that has some paddle shifters because the GT500 was not optional with a manual transmission. It came standard with a 7-speed dual clutch, the first Mustang to have a dual clutch in it. And it is very good, very, very good. One of the controversial things about the Mustang that a lot of people didn't like is the rotary dial to throw it in drive park. Personally, I don't mind it at all. I think it looks good. It also flattens up the area right here a little bit and gives you some more area to rest your arm without the shifter in the way. So I actually kind of like the rotary dial shifter in here, and it allows you to focus more on the paddles that they have on the inside of here. The entire dashboard is very, very similar to the other Mustang models. We do have a carbon fiber dash, but other than that, it's really not too special. We do have the chassis number up on the passenger side dash, which makes it a little bit special, but ultimately this is a driver's car. The interior is not all that special. The exterior, they sure as heck dressed up, but other than the seats on the inside, there's nothing that really stands out or puts it on another level compared to the other models of Mustang. It's still a very comfortable spot to be. It's very nice. I do love the digital dash, and the sync system that we have makes it quite easy to use. I love the toggle switches for drive modes. We get those in all trims of the Mustang, but overall the interior isn't too terribly special, but it also is at the same time because of what the heart of this car and what you were sitting behind and strapped to. It's amazing. This car is amazing. I absolutely love these things. Now let's go ahead and take it for a drive and then wrap this up. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a cameraman, so I'm gonna have to hold my camera here for a moment and just tell you about my experiences behind the wheel of the GT500. I'm thoroughly impressed at how easily you can just daily drive this vehicle around. It is like thoroughly comfortable. It's a very comfortable transmission to drive. The brakes are a bit squeaky. They're very, very large. However, like I said, I'm just thoroughly impressed at how easy this vehicle is to drive. It's very, very comfortable. The suspension's a little bit firm. I do have it in sport mode here. However, if I take the suspension out of sport mode, I don't know, I was hoping that you guys could pick this up by just the gimbal on my phone, but it dramatically changes the ride quality. Like, this is a very easy vehicle to drive on a day-to-day basis. It's fantastic. I'm thoroughly impressed at how dual personality this car is, because in the standard drive mode, it's very, very easy to drive. It's very calm. It's very tame. However, as soon as you turn up the drive modes, put it in sport, put it in track, put it in drag, it completely changes its entire personality. The dashboard changes, and you just have a lot more steering feel and suspension feel as well through, which you can feel very thoroughly through your hands and the connection here. I'm going to try to pick up just how responsive the steering wheel is here. If you guys can just see how little movement it takes to move this car side to side in between the lane, it is quite impressive. I'm thoroughly impressed. It's a lot of fun. Very dedicated track car that can also easily be streeted. Now, as aggressive as these seats are, they're very comfortable just driving around town here. However, if I was much bigger than I am, I think they would start to get quite annoying. Just for reference, I am 5'11", about 200 pounds. So they're very comfortable for my size. However, if you were much larger than me, I think they would get tight in a hurry. Going to go ahead and, as we get up to a little bit of a roll here, accelerate in the Mustang. That way you guys can just see the sheer acceleration of it quick. Just accelerating up to highway speeds there. It is a little bit cold out, and on those Cup 2s, we don't have a whole lot of traction. But as you can see, the dual clutch gets down and it boogies. It has a whole lot of power, a whole lot of torque. However, this vehicle is very much so not meant for the street to floor it. It's a very 50% throttle street car, which to a point makes it not as enjoyable because you can't get anywhere near, and I mean anywhere near, the limits of this car on the street. It is far too fast, far too capable to be able to push it to its limits on the streets without severely breaking some laws and heading to jail. One of the other things I do really like about the Mustang is the dual clutch. It snaps off shifts like nothing else, both up and down. I think my only complaint behind the wheel of the GT500 is what I've noticed on the highway is the steering and feedback is so touchy to the point that it darts itself all over the road a little bit. As you can see here, just as I'm standardly driving, it's just like the amount of feedback is just extreme. Like, even just in its standard driving mode right now, I just have it in normal mode. I don't have the performance suspension or steering on, and the feedback is just tremendous to the point where you really thoroughly have to constantly pay attention behind the wheel here, and you have to be looking at the road because it just kind of can dart out of the hand. Granted, this is a little bit of a bumpier highway, but it is much more jolting than I've experienced in a lot of other vehicles. The GT500 truly is special for a few reasons. One of them being the fact that you can take this vehicle out with your girlfriend, with your wife, and have a very comfortable night out. It's super easy to drive. The transmission's a little bit clunky here and there, but overall it's quite smooth. The suspension is quite impressive how dramatically it changes based on the drive mode. This is a super easy car to drive around town. And even though it is low, like, it's not that low. You can easily drive it around daily. You can take it to the city. It gets a lot of attention. There's no doubt about that. A big part of that is probably the massive wing and the carbon fiber wheels. But overall, it's super easy to drive around town. But as soon as you flip that toggle switch, you flip it to sport, track, drag race, it becomes an entirely different animal. It's crazy that a vehicle can have such different personalities. How you can drive it so easily and then just, whoa, floor it, and wow, it's really, really fast, to flipping the drive modes and it becoming a full-on race car right behind you. This car has some of the most responsive steering feel that I've had in any vehicle I've ever driven. It's unbelievable how much feedback that the steering wheel gives you as you're behind the wheel of piloting this vehicle. Now, I didn't push this car at all. I didn't even floor this car, actually. It's not mine. I would not do that. And it's overall scary. It's 50, 60 degrees outside on Cup 2 tires, and it has 760 horsepower. Like, that can result in something quite bad in quite a hurry. You need to be responsible behind the wheel of this car, because you have to understand the capabilities of it. And that's what I like about it. It's a new vehicle, which I don't say this very often. It is a new vehicle, brand new. Well, not new, it's 2021, but you get what I mean. I'm into a lot of older stuff, like early 2000s. This one makes me scared to drive. I'm scared to drive it. I truly am. It makes my heart pump. I get nervous behind the wheel. My palms start to get a little bit sweaty. I can feel something change in my soul when I'm behind the wheel of the GT500. In a lot of newer cars, I feel like their soul is leaving. The soul has left their body. They feel soulless. They just feel computerized. The GT500 is none of that. It can be tame. It can feel like a lot of modern cars. It can just feel fast. Or it can feel extremely furious when you change the drive modes. And that's what I love about the GT500. It's a very two-personality car, but on one side of the personalities, it's terrifying. And I love that. It reminds me in a way of the old Vipers. It wants to kill you. It really does. But as long as you can tame the beast, it is an amazing vehicle to be piloting behind the wheel of. The Mustang GT500 is going to go down as one of the greatest Mustangs ever built. Ford has said they're not going to stop the production of V8s. And my goodness, I hope they don't, because that motor is amazing. It is fantastic. One of the greatest motors that I've ever gotten to experience in my life. Thank you, Ford, for producing this vehicle. This vehicle is currently for sale for $88,999. And if you're interested in purchasing it, be sure to check out the link down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video here on Apple Autos. And let me know what you guys think of the Shelby GT500. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to help us grow this channel. And I look forward to seeing you soon.